Al Ewing, Ram V and Brian Hitch pick up where Donny Cates left off as Dylan Brock has been left on Earth alone to deal with his new status quo as Venom, while Eddie Brock continues his duties as the new King in Black, but something from across time and space begins hunting the symbiote heroes. Al Ewing and Ram V have an immense task in front of them, picking up Eddie and Dylan Brock's story from Donny Cates' character-defining run of Venom, and just going off this first issue, we're in some pretty good hands. This issue really did feel like the previous run never actually ended. All our characters still have the same voices from the Cates era, and I love that we are continuing to explore the sudden burden Dylan has now thanks to merging with Venom, and doing it all while his father is away, leading to both of them growing further apart than ever before, and Dylan kinda resenting Eddie a little bit for just dumping all of this on him and just leaving. Although you understand why Eddie did that and how he doesn't really exactly have a choice now that he's a god. Eddie's King in Black role continues to just be a blast to explore, and I still can't believe that this is the same character who for so long had no worthwhile character development until Cates took him up a few years ago. I love the explanation of Eddie's new powers and how, while they are very useful, it's also utter nightmare fuel, seeing as just merely thinking about something like entering a symbiote's body can do that for Eddie, and it's usually against his own will since not thinking about something makes you think about something, and because of that we get this whole thing where he can spiral through time because he can tap into symbiotes who aren't even born yet in the future and in the past, and it's just this fantastic sort of time travel adventure that I never thought I'd expect to see Eddie Brock go on. After Ewing's fantastic Guardians of the Galaxy run and Ram V's work on Justice League Dark over at DC, I'm really looking forward to seeing what these writers have in store for us, since I think it's going to get pretty weird. Brian Hitch lends his signature cinematic style to the series, perfectly capturing the huge scale of Eddie's time travel adventure which spans millions of years, as well as Dylan's more down-to-earth action-packed story, filling the book with many great splash pages of Venom ripping his way through faceless soldiers, as well as some newer, cooler, sleeker Venom designs for the space symbiotes. Venom issue 1 was a fantastic beginning to Eddie and Dylan's next chapter in their lives, springboarding off of Donny Cates' amazing run and exploring the concepts he set up and expanding on them very well. I'm going to give this issue a 9.5 out of 10. Venom issue 1 finds a group of soldiers raiding a motel as Dylan Brock knows this is everything he was told not to do as Venom watches on. Venom knows that they should be running since these soldiers are after them, and Dylan knows that as the being wrecks more of the hotel room they are in. Venom knows that none of this will bring Eddie back from the dead, and he's gone as Dylan demands the symbiote stop telling him what to do. 12 hours before and 12,000 light years away from Earth, 4 symbiote pods drift through space, soon picking up a signal in the form of a distress call from a ship. The symbiotes take form as Eddie Brock, the new King in Black, takes control of one of them, using them to head to the ship, spotting that pirates are boarding the cruiser. Eddie tells the symbiotes that if they spot bad guys, he'll have to take over and he'll do the violent parts. The symbiotes agree to that as one of the symbiotes' eyes begin glowing red. The beings board the ship, racing through the halls until they find the Skrull pirates on the bridge, having trapped the crew in their escape pods, happy to have some slaves as well as the drugs that they can sell now. The Skrulls spot the symbiote firing on Eddie in the name of the dead of Largo 4. Eddie doesn't know what context that means, but it's probably one of the dozens of worlds that the symbiotes destroyed while under Null's control. Eddie easily beats back the pirates, telling them that things are changing with the symbiotes now that Null is gone and they are Venom. Eddie thinks of Dylan, hoping that the boy understands why he is to be away from him all the time, hoping that he's making his son proud. Dylan meanwhile is called to Principal Bean's office yet again for more fighting. The principal knows that if he can't talk with Dylan's father, then they'll have to report him to the board since he did some real damage this time and he cannot allow the boy to continue at their school. Dylan leaves the school, meeting with Sleeper outside, who wonders if the boy wants to talk about it, but Dylan knows there isn't anything to talk about, heading home and grabbing a hot dog as he thinks that maybe he got too boring for his father, knowing that he's been gone for a long time this time. He says that he'll be fine though, wishing that he could quit being angry all the time, but Sleeper knows that's thanks to his raging hormones, but Dylan shuts him up by throwing a soda can at the cat. Dylan Dylan heads home, looking at pictures of Eddie as someone watches the boy from outside. Eddie meanwhile continues battling the pirates, knowing that this is one of his better days as the other symbiotes, all named after the Beatles, are fanning out around the ship to check for the crew. He knows that Spider-Man would be proud of him, and so would Dylan, and he even admits he's proud of himself. He webs up the scrolls as George calls for help, and in an instant, Eddie is there, finding that the red-eyed symbiote Ringo has killed the entire crew, saying that they have a message from the future for him and that they want to make sure he listened. Ringo says that soon the King in Black's throne will be empty and he shouldn't get comfortable on it, and this isn't a threat, it's a warning and a fact, since while he won't know when, it is coming for Eddie, so he better say his goodbyes and tell his son to run and hide, but they know it won't make any difference. The symbiote disintegrates as Eddie calls for everyone to get off the ship. The other symbiotes ask what happened as Eddie doesn't have any answers, beginning to wonder what if these symbiotes get red eyes as well, and what if they all do, and what if they come for his son. Later on, Eddie appears to Dylan, telling him to pack his things since they are leaving, knowing that they don't have time to explain, but it will all make sense in time. Eddie asks where Venom is, but Dylan doesn't know since he goes off on his own sometimes, and there hasn't been any Venom sightings, so everything should be alright. Dylan just guesses that with Eddie away so much, he's not the only one trying to find his place. Eddie tells his son to continue to pack as he leaves to look around the house. Dylan is angry his dad just shows up to turn his life upside down, knowing that he won't make him happy as his phone rings. Grabbing it, he finds it's his father, who tells him to just listen, knowing that someone else pretending to be him is in the home with Dylan. Eddie tells his son to feign that he found what he was looking for so the other Eddie doesn't come back into the room, knowing that his son cannot go with that thing. Eddie directs his son to head out the window and down the drain pipe, knowing all about Dylan sneaking out. The other Eddie comes back, finding that Dylan is long gone as the boy hits the streets, told by his father to head to the motel near that one diner Dylan hated. Eddie meanwhile waits for Dylan in the motel room, knowing that time has gone by faster than he thought, looking at the date but not believing it since it can't be right. He second guesses himself, thinking that he could just leave a message for Dylan, but then remembers the warning he got about being comfortable on the throne. Eddie finds that a joke since his body feels alien to him, but he can't leave, but also knows he's wasting time. He begins thinking about time, knowing that he could move his mind to anybody anywhere instantly, so why can't he go any when? He decides that he'll give it a try and catch a glimpse of the future and find out who is behind this, concentrating as he begins falling through time, seeing soldiers assault the hotel and a being called Bedlam along with Kang, who tells his old friend that he cannot win. A voice tells him that this is the center and all roads lead there as he awakens on the floor of the motel room, knowing that he was nearly swept away in time. Finding it hard not to think about bonding with a symbiote from across time since with a single thought it can happen, and just not wanting to think about something like that makes him think about it. Eddie tries to turn his mind to Dylan, calling him and telling him everything that has happened as he finds Dylan has arrived outside via bus. Eddie rushes out to warn his son, but it's too late as choppers arrive, blowing up the motel and Eddie with it. Dylan is grabbed by a disguised Venom who has been following him as the soldiers breach the rest of the motel, knowing the boy is there and is a priority. Venom, however, has other plans, attacking the soldiers and destroying the choppers. Dylan can feel his anger taking over the death of his father, making him unstoppable as he rips through the soldiers. Eddie meanwhile falls back through time, knowing that this is how his story ended, with his body blown up. He feels something pulling at him from across millions of years to the end of everything. He knows this doesn't feel like falling into death, but more like coming home as Eddie arrives in a red forest planet, pulling himself from a symbiote river as the being tells him not to talk, since he just reconstituted himself from available matter, so he'll just need a moment to get his bearings. The being says that this is his first step in a long road as he reveals his name is Meridius, welcoming Eddie to the furthest end of all that is and his garden. In the present, Meridius is shown all that is left of Eddie Brock, knowing that this begins as it always does and all that is happening now has already happened before.